Matthew from Lick the Spoon here. I wanted to talk a little bit about ocean acidification, which may seem a little bit odd given I'm sat in the landlocked county of Wiltshire, quite a long way from the ocean. But in fact 70% of the world is covered in seas and ocean, and if you take into account the depth of the ocean, that's 99% of all available living space. That's 250,000 creatures. And also 1 in every 3 breaths we take is generated by phytoplankton. So the health of the ocean directly affects our own health. Not to mention in the southwest we're very reliant on food from fisheries, and of that 76% of the species in the ocean are in fact invertebrates, such as limpets, crabs, sea urchins, and as man-made CO2 has increased from the Industrial Revolution to now the current levels of over 400 parts per million, it's caused the ocean to change its acidity from a pH of 8.2 to 8.1, which might not sound a lot, but given it's a logarithmic scale, that's 30%. And if warming continues to, or CO2 continues to go at the rate it's predicted, by the end of the century we'll be at 120% increase in CO2 levels and in acidity. So that's a faster rate than any time in the last 300 million years. And why is this important to ocean creatures such as invertebrates? Because the carbonate ions are used for calcification of their shells. So I've assembled a highly sophisticated drawing to explain ocean acidification to you. So carbon dioxide in the atmosphere readily absorbs into the ocean, combines with H2O to form carbonic acid, H2CO3. Carbonic acid is quite unstable and breaks apart into hydrogen ions and carbonates. Now, the problem is the hydrogen ions. These excess hydrogen ions are what are leading to the decrease in the pH of the ocean, or increased ocean acidity. Now, nature has a natural buffer to this. It's weathering of the rocks produces carbonate ions saturating the ocean, and these readily combine with the hydrogen ions. The problem is we're generating so many excess hydrogen ions that there isn't enough buffer to saturate the ocean. Now this is a problem if you're an invertebrate sea creature, because your shell will be weakened. They rely on calcium carbonate shells, and the ocean needs to be saturated with excess carbonate ions in order for the shells to maintain and not actually start dissolving. It's almost like we're pouring acid onto the shell, and it's a huge problem. For example, small sea urchins grow a tiny little skeleton that will lead to difficulties reproducing without these excess carbonate ions. So that is the problem of ocean acidification, caused by man-made CO2 in excess. So as well as ocean acidification, there's a huge problem with ocean warming. Over 90% of the excess heat generated by the blanket surrounding the Earth, the greenhouse gases, has been absorbed by the ocean, and most of this in the top 700 meters. This is leading to effects such as bleaching of corals, where the photosynthetic symbiont is expelled due to heat stress, and the corals effectively starve. And whilst a single event won't lead to the loss of the coral, by the end of the century we're predicting 2 degrees C rise, and 90%, that would lead to 99% loss of all corals. In the 2016-2017 El Nino event, 90% of the corals in the Great Barrier Reef bleached, and indeed around the world. We saw this in Madagascar at the time, talking to the local fishermen. So what are we doing about this? Well, one of the things we're doing at Lick the Spoon is we're using 100% renewable electricity. So we're trying to reduce our carbon footprint. So we use good energy. We're based in Chippenham, and for every kilowatt we purchase from them, they build out renewable solar, wind energy and hydroelectricity. So that's a really good thing and really important thing we wanted to do. You may have in the past heard of the Spoonmobile. Well, the Spoonmobile was scrapped a couple of years ago, and we moved to leasing a hybrid car. We decided it was the best thing to do at the time, and shortly we'll be installing recharging points at our chocolate factory in Corsham. Not that any of us has an electric rechargeable car yet, but that will shortly change for many of us. So there are lots of things we can do to reduce our carbon footprint. Thank you.